Blake Middleton on first. Cheers from the land of 10,000 lakes. Hello to you, Blake. You've been on first here a number of shows in a row. Welcome to you, sir. Julie is back here in Studio B. Just type greetings into her chat. That's her, Restream.io. There is Lance Burke. Hello from the virtual land of Excel Hell. He must be working today. Good for you. Peter Taylor has a nice submission in today's show. We have a Fozzie focus today, Julia. 3 different Fozzie submissions, including one from Peter Taylor.
Great.
Christopher Gillingham. We also have one from Christopher, who's wishing us, along with his wife Jane, fair winds to the Fozzie from Leamington. Ted Ryman is down in Cape Town. We're going to dedicate a segment to Ted today. David James likes I guess Julia likes your suit. That's a lovely color. Of course, he went to Stanford, too.
Can't be all bad. Thank you.
Mark Holland is jumping in. Mark, nice to chat with you earlier. Chris Exley, David Price in Barcelona. Nice stuff from the Priceys. Here we go with our show number 760. Welcome. Mr. President Alistair Murray's checking in from Oz, presumably from Melbourne. Philip Laffin is under hurricane watch in Tampa. Yeah, I've been talking to Mark Michelson, our Sailing Illustrated weather guru, about what is that, Hurricane Helen or Helena or?
I don't know.
Something. He's not convinced it's going to be that big a deal.
Oh.
But it is going to go into Florida at some point. Tier DeYoung is in SoCal. The Southwold Sailing Club. We haven't seen you folks on in a while. We featured them some shows back. Welcome to you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
This music, Julia, by the way, which I love,
yes,
is from a royalty-free site, but YouTube keeps saying somebody owns it, so somebody's trying to fake us like they own it.
Yeah.
I haven't had any copyright strikes, but I may have to change it just for good order. Welcome, everybody. Show number 760 for the 24th, 24/9/24. Helene. Let's see if it rapidly intensifies. Adrian Gray in Plymouth. Is that Plymouth in Mass, in Michigan, or in the UK? And there's Gordon Smith is on in Denmark. Good evening, peeps. Welcome to all of you. We got a great show today, Julia, but before we get started, just a quick schedule update. Looking forward here. We're doing our regular show, as you all know, today on the 24th. And nothing tomorrow. There's no racing in Barcelona tomorrow. However, on Thursday, the start of the Louis Vuitton Cup Finals and also the winner-take-all Youth America's Cup Final. They will be mashed together, and we'll do a watch party, even though that's the second day now of the Stackers. We're going to do a watch party because you folks are the most important thing to us, our Fozzie regular viewers and so on. 0500 watch party. And the first race is for the Louis Vuitton Cup. Then the second race of Thursday morning will be this winner-take-all single race for the finals of the Youth America's Cup. And then they'll do a second LVC final race. And, of course, that's between the Brits and the Italians. Then no shows, no show Friday, and no shows, watch parties or otherwise, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday because of the St. Francis Yacht Club Stag Cruise. A lot of us are away for that, me included. So, and I can't really do a watch party up there at Tinsley Island, which is 65 miles to the northeast of us here. It's up in the Delta near Stockton, California. We do have internet up there, but not a great connection. And I've got a bid on up there as I'm what are you laughing?
Oh, you have a bid on.
Because I'm
cheering the dumb thing. Oops,
well,
sorry, the exciting thing.
The exciting. It's a great event. And we
got
Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin delivering the keynote Friday morning at 1100. We've never had a keynote before. We've got another handful of innovations for the Stag Cruise, which is going to be, I think, a great event and perfect weather. Watch party Monday morning, unless it's a reserve day. Currently, it's scheduled as a reserve day, but let's see how it goes over the weekend. And then we think Tuesday there will still be racing. We're not 100% sure, but Tuesday racing and do a watch party. remember this final series for the LVC, Louis Vuitton Cup Finals, is a first to win 7. Okay, it's first to 7 points because the jury can award points or deduct points, as we've explained before.
Oh, yes.
So it's really first to 7 nominally, first to 7 wins, 7 points. That is a best, Julia, of... Come on, you went to Stanford, do the math. Best of 13.
13.
13,
Yes.
first to win 7.
Yep.
So that's our schedule going forward. Julia, what are we celebrating today? There's a clue there under that lower third.
Yeah.
More like a lower half.
I know. I don't know.
There's more of it.
I don't really.
It is Heritage Day.
Oh, in South Africa.
In South Africa, which is celebrated every year on the 24th of September. Heritage Day is a public holiday in South Africa that celebrates the roots and history of diverse cultures. Beginning in '96, this day has been commemorated in the RSA, which is sometimes referred to as the Rainbow Nation. South Africa has a wide range of diverse cultures, beliefs, and traditions, as you all know, and Heritage Day is meant to celebrate the unique variety of contributions of so many different peoples and groups. I may have used an S on that if I had done that. Peoples and groups. The significance of Sept 24 as a day of celebration goes back more than a century to Zulu King Shaka.
What a nice name.
Who apparently died on the 24th of September, 1828. The date is believed to be the birthday, or not died, but it's believed, what? Well, he died in 1828. The date is believed to be the birth date of King Shaka and has been celebrated as Shaka Day for many years. But what they really do are barbecues like most of the rest of us do, whether you're Australian or American, and everywhere else on your National Day, your Heritage Day, your 4th of July, and so on. 24th of September in the Republic of South Africa is also known as National Braai Day. And that's, I had to look that up. It's pronounced braai. It's from the Dutch word. Here it is.
Broil.
Well, close. And it's brafvlees. When European settlers, particularly the Dutch, arrived in the Cape of Good Hope in the 17th century, this is 1600, they brought with them their culinary traditions, including grilling meat over an open flame. No surprise. The Dutch term brafvlees, or vlees, I think it's pronounced, meaning grilled meat, became integrated into South African culture. And as you can see in the upper left corner, Julia, we dedicate that to...
Yes, our famous South African, Mr. Ryman.
Ted Ryman, also known... see, he's already put in the comments, is also known as Braai Day. They pronounce... I heard lots of kids on YouTube videos pronouncing it Braai Day. Chris Fury is also in Melbourne. He says, good morning from a damp Melbourne. Stingray, yay, my parents are from families that date back 400 years in South Africa. Stingray, remember, was raised.
Oh, I forgot that,
Remember that? He was raised in South Africa, and Alan Long confirms Dutch for barbecue or for grilling meats on an open fire. So we're celebrating that today. We are also celebrating, as always, those of you who contribute $1 or $2 or more per month to us via Patreon or otherwise to keep us on the air. Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. And we use that money just for Studio B. We don't pay the rent to my landlady.
or your salary or mine.
Or our salaries. Well, although we did double double our salaries this year.
We did.
We did. So, we have to keep that in mind. So you got to help us out. We doubled our salaries from 0 to 0. And Stingray's making a political joke here in the U.S. Never included cats and dogs. I hope not. Okay, let's get to our show. And what better way to start this show on Tuesday? Again, no show on Friday, but from our dear friend and Coaching Corner contributor, John Emmett, who checks in again from Weymouth, where they've had not only the change of season now that we're in the autumn here in the Northern Hemisphere, but they've switched over to big boats at his local sailing club. John Emmett's Coaching Corner.
Well, what a difference a week can make. And again, the boat park here at Castle Cove looks completely different. I'm not going to go too far into the boat park because there's men at work. But what I will say is where one door closes, perhaps another door opens. Personally, my intention is to sail for the entire window in the best Blue Peter fashion. Here's one I made earlier with the D0 ready to go. But I just wanted to show you a little bit of the activity going on because the yachts are now being packed away for the winter. But if you want to keep sailing, we'll talk about this more on John Emmons Coaching Corner, you can always go to a warmer venue. Typical venues for the Brits, Villamora, Lanzarote, etc. But looking behind me, you can see this half of the boat park is now absolutely full of yachts, and they will go back on the water round about April next year. Well, welcome to part 2. I'm back here at Castle Cove, and no sooner has one season stopped that another season starts. So whilst people are busy packing away boats in the background, we have a taster session for the cadets coming up, and this is such an important thing because the cadets, or the young sailors, really are the future of the sport. And you can see the typical boats we have here, the toppers, the Ilkas, the 420s, all getting ready, so everyone can be ready for next season.
Okay, we're not an abrupt ending, but a little unceremonious there as John Emmons Sailing get to the front of the fleet, his regular CCC, Coaching Corner contribution, for which we are deeply appreciative, and the comments rolling in here. We are so spoiled in California that we can sail year-round, Ed Worley says. Yes, Ed. And there was a back and forth. Somebody saying, well, when I was making that comment about Stingray, they thought, well, he was raised by a Stingray? That's why he's called. No, he is in love with his car, which is a Corvette, a Stingray Corvette from some years ago. But I thought, maybe what I should have said, Julia, is that Stingray has never grown up. Not that
he doesn't want to.
Not that he grew up in South Africa. He's just never grown up.
Well, there's no law against that.
There is no law against that. Stingray, give us something that Julia can wave her finger at. He usually does. He's the teller of strange jokes here. On our Sailing Illustrated show, which is our regular show on Tuesday and Fridays. No show on Friday, as I mentioned at the top of the show. But thank you for joining us today. And I'm going to start with a Bravo Zulu. I've been texting here with a lot of you this morning since the Youth America's Cup semifinal in Barcelona. I didn't get up at dark 30 and watch it, and I didn't get all cleaned up to do a live stream, as you all know. But I did watch the last race and then checked in. I'll tell you what, the racing was fabulous. I've seen a lot of reports, other news reports and otherwise about it. And all of us were pretty stoked about what happened today, particularly among those top 6 youth teams in Barcelona. So bravo Zulu to all involved, starting with Grant Dalton and starting with Russell Coots, really, when he conceived the Youth America's Cup here in San Francisco 2013. And since then, but this event in the AC 40s, I think, has been arguably more, I don't know if you would all agree, but it's been arguably more exciting than what we've seen so far in the AC 75s. Good close racing, lead changes, and it came down to the last leg of today's last race, the 4th and final race, to determine not the first place team, because as we all expected, Julia, Marco Gradoni and the Italians were going to go forward, and they did. They just have more time and grade in the boat.
Yeah. And
he has won and is going forward to the semifinal. The final. This was the semis, quote unquote, today.
Right.
But the other team that's going forward is New York Yacht Club's American Magic, as you know, Julia.
Indeed.
And it came down to the last leg of the last race, and New York managed to stay ahead of the Brits in Ineos Britannia. So American Magic stayed ahead of them and won their way into the LV UniCredit Youth America's Cup finals on Thursday. So bravo Zulu to them and all involved. That's been the schedule. The final series was supposed to be over a couple days ago, but weather delayed that, and it ended today. And now they should have called that the semifinal series. Lately they've been calling it the semifinal series, qualification series, semifinal series. And then on Thursday, and by the way, on Thursday the race is going to be sandwiched in between the two LVC finals races. So you're going to see the grown-ups, then the kids, then the grown-ups on Thursday morning, and we'll cover that. We'll do a watch party for that. Why not?
Why not?
Emmett says it's ridiculous that the final for the kids is just one race. I completely agree, John, and a lot of others do too. It should be at a minimum first to win 2 out of 3. Even better if it were 3 out of 5, but 2 out of 3 at least. Too much can happen in our sport. And yeah, John Emmett saying GBR were doing very well this morning. Our morning, your afternoon in Europe. ESP was a bit of a roadblock. They also made the Brits made one mistake. They sort of fell off the foils momentarily after a maneuver. Sail GP talk.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. Great stuff. And we've been checking in on our Fozy. Sadly, on the right is Leo Takahashi, who was sailing for ETNZ. He did not get forward to the semis, the racing this morning, where they raced the entire semis in one day, all 4 races. However, Cole Tapper did get forward to the semis, raced well today, not well enough to make it into the final, and he won the final race. And in a few minutes, we have Cole commenting with his coach, Harry Price, live to tape, courtesy of Christian Price. And we'll get to that in a minute. So that's the program that was today. There were 4 fleet races for these 6 finalist teams. The Italians, the Americans, and the Brits came out of the so-called Group A, which are the America's Cup team representatives. And then 3 more came out of Group B, which were the invited 6 teams, not shown there in Group B. These are the 3 that went forward: Sweden, España, and Australia. So you don't have Canada, France, or the other 3 in that group were Canada, France, and New Zealand. So they didn't. Oh, New Zealand was in the top group. So in any event, those were the 6 that raced this morning. And here's how that racing sorted out: a 5-minute or so video of recapping today's UniCredit Youth America's Cup semifinals.
0.5, kill 1.
Italy hanging back, coming in with pace though.
Yeah, all boats killing time here for the start.
Kill 1.
Gonna have to put the pace on the Australians here.
We are racing Penalty Italy. Penalty Italy over the start too early, race 4. 2 spots available, 4 boats. Who's it going to be?
Such an even start, that front row. Just 3 meters back from the line.
Coming up slowly. Going by and left here.
Let's have another look at that start. Such a tight battle, and then we see Lina Rossa just accelerated slightly too much. Got that OCS.
They're very lucky not to foul the boat to lure it from there. Windward boat having to keep clear.
Now we're going to tack on right leg. Over that.
Australia have been let go right over to that boundary. They're not being attacked because really they're out of contention. They're in contention to win this one, but overall they're not. That's why the teams that are battling it out for that second spot, or first and second, are letting the Australians have a free run.
And turning.
American Magic gone all the way to the right-hand side.
Oh, on a bad tack by the Swedes. They're off the foils. They've had a shocker. Absolutely a disastrous situation there for Sweden.
Go down.
Great Britain just sail on by.
And the British now.
And do Team Australia get around the gate and lead the fleet? It's American Magic currently in position 2. Then a pathway, Great Britain take the opposing mark. USA are down. It's all going on in the final race, but they're back up.
They're just watching the tack here on board the Swedish team. Oh, just punching through a big wave there, not in a flat spot of water. See the boat jump through that wave, not getting the foil hooked up before the turn properly, and paying the penalty. Big pressure, Shirley, to execute this jibe well. Oh, they're going to touch down. They're going to touch down. They're going to wash off some pace here. They've got to get it up in the air again. The Italians blow past. That'll open the door for the Americans now.
The
Australian team and Australia is pinned back and ripping up wind.
I want to say something here. You see how on the screen, and I think this is brilliant, by the way, you see there's a green and a red bar, Julia?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, what that means is that as they stand now, the green bars are the two that are going to go forward, taking into account the previous races and the scores.
Yeah.
And the red bars are not going forward. And these change during the racing as the positions in this current race change. So I didn't change so much today, but it's, I think, a really cool innovation. We've seen it, you see it in Formula One, you see it in some others.
Yeah.
But this is the clearest, most succinct expression of that I think I have seen. Let's go back to the vid.
It's good.
Zoom in, please zoom in. The Brits go behind us. Yep, copy. Swedish are to lured, setting up for a right turn.
And do Team Australia. They've sailed a beautiful race. This is the last race. It's the last race for them, but it's also the last race in these semi-finals of the UniCredit Youth America's Cup. The battle is on for second spot. In comes Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. They continue this way. They are a lock for the final. But who will they meet on Thursday in the single match race final? Cell Team Barcelona at position 3. American Magic. 4th, ahead of Athena Pathway, Great Britain. And then the Swedes, who, if they hadn't botched that move, could have been a different story. Oh! Safely around. Let's just call that one safely around.
Nice, boys. Just keep sailing above.
The Americans will keep charging, and they'll just want to make sure they stay in front of the British here.
But not, just before boundary. You're good.
So next manoeuvre, absolutely critical on board American Magic.
It is theirs to lose currently.
Just like a bought one.
It's a keeper on board the American team. And do Team Australia charging on this downwind over 40 knots of boat speed. They've sailed the boat beautifully, as have Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. Spanish team not far out of it.
And do Team Australia get the win in the final race of the semi-finals? They will be followed through by Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. They are into the match race final. Green light for them. Sail Team Barcelona first turn. What a series they've had. And guess who goes and meets Luna Rossa? American Magic are through to the match race final. What an effort.
All good. Just going left turn here, 2 board roundup. Board down. And turning up here. I think that gets us in. I'm not 100%.
Okay, so that's how it came down. And Thursday, I agree with John Emmett, will be a great day. Graham Sweeney was impressed with the Aussies, even though that kind of offhand remark by Peter Lester, they're all letting the Aussies go, they don't count. There's probably some truth to that, but still, you didn't need to say that on the commentary in quite so few words, I didn't think. But I agree with Fog Machine. Maneuvers can be very risky. If you read up the slides, John Emmett was surprised that the Americans didn't cover the Brits, but I think they're all holding on for dear life, trying not to do any more maneuvers than they have to do, Julia.
All right, or hit
or risk falling off the
Yep.
foils and get. I liked what Glenn Ashby said. He said something about washing speed away. When you fall down, all that water comes over the boat and you're washing your speed away. That was a pretty good comment, I
Yeah.
thought. So there's the final results of the Unicredit Youth America's Cup, at least after the fleet racing, after the semifinals today. They raced all 4 races, and it was a little light. They held them on shore at first, and then the breeze came in. And as you saw, it was a glorious day, great day, and great racing, close racing all day.
Yeah, it was much more exciting, really.
Yeah, it is in many ways. The fleet racing is more exciting than match racing, and that's why running multiple match races like we do at Gov Cup,
Yes.
so you can see if one is not so interesting, you can switch over to another one,
Right.
is more interesting than just running one match race at a time if you're going to do match racing in the preliminaries. So there are the 2 teams going forward. Bravo Zulu to them both. Also, you got to give credit to the Brits, who are right on the cusp, only 1 point behind New York American Magic. So BZ to Team GBR's Athena Pathway, which is the sponsor and the name for both their youth team and their women's team. And their women's team should be very good, by the way, as well. And only 1 point behind NIAM.
Oh,
So that's who we're going to see, Julia. These 2 teams going forward into the final,
yeah.
not to be confused with the name of the bar over here.
The final.
The final.
Yeah.
Did that bar burn down?
Yes, I think so.
I mean,
there
not
was
that- Not that you or I ever frequented that place. Did you ever have a drink there with your late great
yes.
husband? Fog Machine will know if the final is still with us or
No,
if
it's not still with us. I think there was a fire there. It didn't burn down,
Oh,
but
it
I
didn't.
think it.
Well, the final on Thursday between these 2 teams, and Jody Shields saying One Design Racing will always produce close racing, and I love it. So here was what Magnus the Magnificent had to say today. Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli and NYYC American Magic set to light up the Unicredit Youth America's Cup final. What a turn of phrase, Julia.
Yes, indeed.
From your favorite scribe.
I know.
And he went on to say it could well be billed as the, quote, battle of the new age, as two of the world's finest young sailing talents go head-to-head for the Unicredit Youth America's Cup title. Marco Gradoni, the mercurial, is he? And fast-coming Italian talent from LRPP, and Harry H4, as he's known, Melgus, the latest generation of an exceptional U.S. racing dynasty, representing New York Yacht Club's American Magic, both sealed their places in the event's upcoming match race final after 4 outstanding fleet races in today's semifinals, and will now go head-to-head in a one-shot, winner-take-all race for the title to be held this Thursday, September 26th.
That should be good.
It should be great, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
Graham Sweeney thinks the Brits played it too safe with a hope to come from behind. Hello, Andrew Barkworth. Nice to see you on. If Andu promised to sponsor Aussie Big Boat in AC38, I'm going to tell you some more about that. I promise my wife will buy all our white goods and small appliances from Andu. David James, it's curious to me that on average drivers in F1 tend to be quite a bit younger than in the AC. Is it experience in AC more important than athleticism? I just think that actually with these new boats, David, they're only starting to figure out that these younger guys and their reaction times and so on are probably
a bit faster,
more important. And I think you're going to see no pun intended, a sea change of talent going forward. Speaking of which, 2 of our FOSI Governor's Cup veterans and both winners of the Gov Cup, on the left, Harry Price from that famously good Price family, all of whom are FOSI. We've had both Harry and his sister Olivia, who was the Olympian silver medalist in 2012 in Weymouth in the women's match racing. They've been on the show along with their parents, Christian and David. It's great to have FOSI, Julia, have FOSI around the world, because Christian and David and Andrew Pindar. They're all in Barcelona, and they're feeding me stuff, as is Vice Commodore Claire Harrington. And we just love the FOSI, not only for watching the show, but for the submissions.
Absolutely.
And it's frankly better coverage than if I were sitting in Barcelona.
No
They
kidding.
have people there sending us material this morning since Dark 30, and we are most appreciative. And watch this. Christiane, I said to her after she sent this photo of Harry, who's Cole's coach, and she sent that photo, I said, why don't you get a video? Just go there, hold your phone up, and just do a one take, a 1 minute long video of the two of them,
Yep.
without any rehearsal, and sure enough, she did. And enjoy this.
Hi Tom, we're coming to you. Sadly, we've been eliminated today, but we had a great day of sailing. Our last race we even managed to win, so that was so special for the team, and we hadn't had much time, but we got out there and took it to the big guys, so we're really happy with that. And I'll hand over to our coach Harry, who's been helping us for over a year and volunteering his time, and he's just been amazing. So yeah, Harry.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool to be a part of this whole operation, and pretty happy and proud that we got this off the ground and got these guys to the start line. And we're looking forward to next week with the women's team. And well done to Cole for
And I'll be
leading
in the
front.
watch party with you.
Going to be in the watch party with us. That again is Aussie coach Harry Hall. That's wrong. It's Harry Price. That lower third is wrong. Sorry. Graphics department. You screwed up again. Julia, knock on that door. The graphics department there in the control room. Harry Price. And Christiane Price sent that photo along. And I've learned some other things from Christiane and from David and so on this morning. And first of all, that was one take.
Yep.
And Cole has always been a fairly outgoing kid and great in the Gov Cup. He's a current champion, Gov Cup champ.
Right.
He won down there at Balboa Yacht Club 2024. Harry Price, not Harry Hall, sorry. Harry Price, Andy Rose could never get more than about 2 or 3 words out of him in the Monday night meet the teams
Right.
and in the post-race press conferences, even though he won the Gov Cup, once or twice? I can't remember now.
Yeah.
And just not, but he's flower. He's come out of his shell, and the two of them to hold a camera up like that, and one take Tom, as they call me, and these guys are now one take Toms to be sure,
Yep.
smiling, having fun, without any rehearsal, just right off the top of their heads. Part of that's the credit to Andy Rose and the Gov Cup. Part of it's to their parents,
Yep.
and just to the atmosphere there in Barcelona, and this event, which is, I think, just really been fabulous.
Yeah.
Now, to the question about is there going to be, because Australia is probably the number one missed nation at the America's Cup among the senior 6 teams.
Right.
And there's a lot of chatter, I'm told, down there. And there were a couple of comments up here, Andrew Barkworth and others saying, that we think maybe this will help inspire, and we all hope it does,
Yeah.
an Australian team into the next America's Cup AC 38. To that point, here's a video from stuff.co.nz.
There's some serious murmurings around Barcelona that Australia is preparing to make its grand return to this famous regatta. The Aussies do have, after all, a legendary history with the America's Cup. Some big highs, like in 1983 when they became the first team to win the Cup off America, and some big lows, like in 1995 when One Australia sank to the bottom of the Pacific.
I think we would all love to see Australia back at the table, and I don't think that's just me as an Australian. I think that's all the competitors, and I think the fan base around the world would like to see it.
Aussie rich lister John Winning is on a mission to make it happen.
I'd like to basically finish getting the knowledge and watching this cup, get the motivation and the inspiration from being here, take that back to Australia and have the right chats to the right people, sailors and sponsors, and try and raise the money and put a team together to be here for the next cup, whether it's in 2 years or 4 years.
Winning is currently in Barcelona as one of the backers of Australia's women and youth teams competing at this year's Cup.
An Australian would say we don't want to do things half-assed, so this is one half of the arse, and we want to get the other half being having a full cup team in addition to the women's and the youth team.
Team New Zealand's Grant Dalton has said Australia would no doubt be a welcome addition to any future competition, regardless of who the defender is. But it will, of course, all come down to money. It is widely reported to cost a team anywhere between $100 and $200 million to partake in a single campaign. And even then, only one team can actually compete in the big match and take on the defender.
Nice report by stuff.co.nz, and we've already got 100 messages with 35 minutes into the show and the comments, which really make the show, especially the watch part. I love the commenters. The Zoomers are great, but the comments are great too.
Yes.
And let's see, Rob Fry, who's the father of Leo, Leonard Takahashi. There has been some great racing. Yes, indeed, there has. Rob, say hi to Leonard for us. We'll be following his career going forward in SailGP and otherwise.
Yeah.
John Emmett saying, as we read as usual from the bottom up, sorry I do that, it irritates a few, annoys some of you, but that's just easier for me here in the studio. Quite simply, the more teams in the AC, the better, Emmett is saying. Alan Long, then sneaking away to Barcelona, he's replying to John Emmett, who says, you ought to get there. It's not a conflict of interest. And I agree with Gordon Smith. The AC 40 events, and particularly the Youth AC, have given this event a feeling of a sailing festival, even better with the other classes than AC related taking part. Brilliant. Totally agree. Totally agree.
And also, I like that Lily's currently in doing the China Open.
Yeah, Lily, it's too bad she's not there. I wish she were there covering this for China and maybe build some interest in China. But wouldn't it be great if Australia were there?
Yes.
And wouldn't it be great if John Emmett were coaching a team, maybe a British team? Mm-hmm. And we'll see. Sailable. Yep. What I think you're going to see is when the wind limits are not sailable. Is that comment off? Yeah, at the top of the screen there, Grant. This is Graham Sweeney's comment.
Yeah.
Then you will see virtual racing tournaments in an arena. I hope not, Graham. I know you're a little tongue-in-cheek with that comment, but Alistair Murray, heartbreaking. We haven't been in it, meaning Australia, with all our great sailors. Yes, indeed. Encouraging Julia to see the Americans with H4 doing helping to bring the U.S. to the fore here a bit, and on and on and on. Okay, now these folks. You recognize our Fozy?
Yes.
There are Christian and Davey Price, Pricey as he's known, with Andrew Pindar, and there's some others that were in that photo. One of Andrew's colleagues, Christina, I think, works with him in the various moving equipment logistics that he does for our beloved sport. And actually, Harry, not Hall, Harry Price's godmother was in that photo. I posted on my Facebook page. Thanks again to Christian for sending stuff through. Thanks again also to Vice Commodore
Claire
Harrington, who sent this picture of H4 of Harry Melgus IV in Barcelona today, just before we went to air. He's there up on the stage. They came into the big stage there and had the prize giving. There were lots of people there. And of course, he is advancing with his team. NIAM, New York American Magic, to Thursday's Youth AC final. Thank you, Claire, for that photo. Speaking of his team, meanwhile, over at New York Yacht Club American Magic, this is a team of well-drilled sailors led by Harry and Kyle Navin on the steering wheels, backed up by the supreme trim talents. He uses lots of adjectives.
Yes.
This is more of Magnus the Magnificent.
Yeah.
Supreme trim talents of Severin Graham and Finn Rowe, who are terrific sailors, no doubt. This is a youth team just like the Italians, who have been fully integrated with their Senior America's Cup team, who have nurtured their talent brilliantly. So no surprise, the two teams that have had the most experience and have been from the get-go, really, Magnus put it well, fully integrated with their senior teams.
Yes.
The Cup teams. The kids call it the Cup teams and the youth teams, and that's probably a pretty accurate description. Now let's look at Gradoni and co. Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli topped the overall standings, actually by far, and also advanced to the final. Helmsman Marco Gradoni and Gianluigi Gigi Ugolini have serious talent behind them in trimmers Rocco Falcone and Federico. I wonder if Rocco Falcone is the son
The other Falcone.
yeah, I wonder, or a relation anyway. And Federico or Frederico, I wonder if that's a typo. Federico Colanino, and are eyeing the match race format keenly. I, for one, Julia, I think that H4 and the American Magic squad may be better match racers than Mr. Gradoni. We shall see.
We're gonna find out.
We're going to find out Thursday, and it looks like there's going to be breeze Thursday. It looks like it's not going to be another one of these dead days in Barcelona. So we shall see. What are the comments coming through here? Yeah, I was wondering, Chris actually was wondering if that's Shannon Falcone's brother or son or what have you. I think he's more likely to be a brother, but who knows? It would be poetic, Emmett is saying. John says it'd be poetic if USA beat ITA. Rob Fry thinks that is Shannon Falcone's younger brother, not his son. I think that's right. I think Shannon's not that old maybe to have a son who's in his 20s. I've done a couple campaigns with Shannon, who is a fabulous, and of course he's with Luna Rosa. Luna Rosa Pradaparelli is one of their senior shore team guys. Let's not forget the intent of the event. Graham Sweeney says it is not an F1 circus. It is a challenge for a perpetual prize. I'm not keen. This is riding on the coattails of the AC. And yes, I do believe that this is headed to virtual sailing tournaments. I hope you're wrong, Graham. Rocco is the younger brother. Mark Holland, our Sailing Illustrated statistician. Thank you. And we might, if we were all together, we might call him our crack spotter, Julia.
Yes,
He's
indeed.
spotting crack for us. Gordon Smith, ITA have been sailing beautifully. I have been really impressed. And by the way, having Mark Holland on as a Zoomer was terrific.
Yes.
The other day on our watch party. I hope he comes on again.
Thursday morning, he's invited.
Well, he's always invited, as are our other Zoomers.
Right.
So, Julia, here are these two guys at the so-called mixed zone. It's sad they don't, Richard Gladwell and I have been saying, it's sad they don't put the two guys on the stage with a neutral Bruno Truble type person between them. Yeah, Magnus could do it. Magnus would be great. He'd be better than maybe the kid they've got who's moderating the press conference, because Magnus just knows so much more about the sport. Right. Okay, he's working for Dalton, he's working for the event, but so what? I think he would be neutral and fair and good. Magnus, bring back the press conferences, sit them at the table with their names in front, post-race, ask them some hard questions, not just more. The other thing, Julie, that drives me nuts is the commentators this morning, and it used to just be Shirley, and they're all so fluffy, and they're also, and they're paid to be fluffy. I get it. But they're saying, instead of asking, what do you think of the racing today? They say, how great does it feel to, how great are you, how? They always start with the word how. How interesting was that? And the respondent can't help but say, well, it was pretty interesting. They've led them on to the answer. And it just drives me nuts. Commentators. Opportunity lost with no pressers after the racing. Totally agree, Chris, actually. Thank you for that. Yarvahe, anyone outpacing NZ, AC75 while everything else is going on? NZ. I don't know. That's a good question.
It is a good question.
Isn't that a good question, Julia?
It is.
Huh?
Yes.
Why don't you find that out for us? Call one of your sources in Barcelona, Julia.
All right.
Clay Embley is agreeing. He's saying the press conferences brought out the personalities of the sailors. 87 was a great example. Well, so was 83. So was 80 when the late, great Bill Ficker was. Here's a good example. I mean, Bruno Truble took over after 83. It was Bill Ficker through 83. And Ficker was quicker in 1970 when he won the Cup on Intrepid.
Right.
And then Bill was very prim and proper. I got to know him quite well in his later years. And by the way, his son-in-law is coming to the Stag Cruise.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Peter McDonald, whose wife is Dion McDonald, who is Bill Ficker's daughter. Right. Peter's coming up to his first ever Stag Cruise.
Oh, good.
Beware, Peter. Beware. We're going to have some surprises for Peter. His nickname is Peter Breeder, by the way. You can give me a shake of the finger. But that's what he's widely known. But I digress. But when Bill Ficker chaired the press conferences in his white shirt and New York Yacht Club tie and blue blazer and Yacht Club crest, and he was so sincere and so dignified, but he asked hard questions.
Mm-hmm.
Dennis, why'd you do that? You know, he could ask the hard question. Ted Turner was slipping below the table in 1977 because he'd had too much aquavit. Actually, people thought he was full drunk. That's not what he was slipping down to grab the bottle, see, under the table, so he could have another hit.
Oh,
and
then that's the first time I heard that.
Really, well, you know, you got to stick with me, Julia. I'll tell you. I'll write my book. Actually, Gary Jobson told me that, and Gary was sitting next to him.
Yeah,
because he was Ted Turner's tactician. And then Bruno did a fabulous job of those press conferences over the now many years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, press conferences were great. Speaking of cats and dogs comments, now you know what that is. Andrew Barkworth is reliving or helping us relive one of the worst episodes, which was here in '88. I should say here in the USA, but down in San Diego in '88, and I had my parents there, and I had my mom, my late great mother, and my dad were there, and I said, because I was running the event, and I said, come on over here, watch this press conference. You're going to see everybody bury the hatchet, and everybody's going to make up nice. Well, how wrong could have I been? Because one of the comments was Dennis leaning forward into his microphone, and he leaned right forward, and he said, and Faye is sitting there, and I can't remember who else was down there sitting next to him, either his helm or maybe others, and maybe it was Bruce Farr. And Dennis said, well, no wonder I won by a lot. They were accusing him of sandbagging because he got way out ahead in the catamaran, ahead of the big boat in these long races. These were 39 and 40-mile light air races. And because everybody was worried there'd be a court case and Michael Fay would go into court and try to prove that this was a mismatch. And Dennis, by holding back to try to make it look less like a mismatch, well, that was I'm doing the setup, as Johnny Carson would have said to his guest. Dennis leans forward and he said, well, yeah, I was way out ahead. I'm sailing a cat and you're sailing a dog. And it went downhill from there.
Woo!
And there was actually a bit of a pushing and shoving on. It wasn't quite a fisticuffs in the final press conference. It was really not correct. But nonetheless, it's a chapter in the history of the America's Cup. And I wish instead of this mixed zone where they put the players there and answering questions in various languages, okay, I get that. But Marco's English is perfect, and Harry's English is, of course, perfect. And they should put them together on the stage after the racing. Now, maybe there's a press conference tomorrow, Wednesday, before the racing. Probably is, but it's always so corporate, and it's always so boring. And, you know, the questions are boring. And even if one of the journalists gets their, you know, nerve up to ask a bit of a penetrating question, Julia.
Yes.
A penetrating question, they still come back with pablum. I mean, with corporate pablum. It's just, they're rehearsed by their PR people. I would prefer them to have 3 races. John Emon is saying, when he has won 4 America's Cup, I will let him tell me how to sail. DC said Clayton Embley's remembering. Yeah. Yarvahe thinking that Shirley Robertson and Glenn, Glenn probably, Shirley's just a little too corporate and a little too fluffy, in my opinion. And I love Shirley, and she's a hell of a good sailor, but at least that was more polite than when suggesting that fiberglass was cheating when Dennis leaned forward and he said, Julia, why else would you build boats of fiberglass unless you wanted to? And he paused and went, okay, I'm sitting in the back of that room. Unless you wanted to cheat. You, the Kiwis, that was going into the finals somewhere in 86 or 87 in Frio. Gordon Smith, I just got a ban for moaning about the lack of overhead shots of the race course. I noticed John Emmett didn't even when he was moaning as well. A ban from where? On Facebook? Certainly not from us. Okay, let's wrap this segment up, but it's been fun. It's been fabulous, and I think it will be even more so on Thursday. And here's what Magnus wrote. It could well be billed as the battle of the new age as the two of the world's finest young sailing talents go head to head. I think I've read this.
Yes, I was going to say it.
Right?
You already read
But
that.
I just wanted to say it again. It's going to be, I think, a hot time in the Old Town tonight.
Yep.
You know what city that was a reference to? It'll be a hot time in the Old Town tonight. That was the Chicago Fire.
Oh, yeah.
A long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
So it is going to be cool. More of Mag News. A new champion will be crowned, but the Gradoni, not Gardoni, the Gradoni Melgus rivalry, and I think this is prescient. I think this is a good comment. The Gradoni Melgus rivalry could well be one we will see for years and years in future regattas for the America's Cup.
No kidding.
First blood here could be the opening blow of a thrilling, decades-long psychological battle played out on the water, Magnus wrote. Everything to play for. The UniCredit Youth America's Cup final will take place, as we've said, on Thursday, the 20th. Between, here it's official, because I was back and forth with Stingray about this, between the opening two races of the LVC final. Who will come out on top is impossible to predict, but fireworks are expected when these two teams face off. And of course, we'll cover that in a watch party Thursday morning at 0500 our time. Yay! Hopefully there's, I hope I don't have, I'm going to have to leave at 8. So I hope it doesn't go longer than 3 hours, because I got to beat cheeks to get over to St. Francis, which is not far away. But because the Stag Cruise really starts Wednesday night, and there's plenty of action from 0600 Thursday morning over at the club. But I'm going to skip it to do this, Julia.
Yes, you are.
Right?
Yes.
Isn't that right?
Absolutely.
Now, see, you put your hand up, and you see what happened to your camera? You put your hand up, and for some reason, your camera is still in hunting mode, and it's hunted you. Yeah, and it uses those facial gesture or hand gestures.
That ought to tell me about the hand
Well, I got to
gestures.
turn those gestures off. I'll make a note and turn those gestures off on your camera. I didn't know they were on. So there's what we've just been through. There were 12 teams, 6 in Group A, 6 in Group B, and the top 3 from each of those groups went through to the semifinals, and that's what we were seeing today. They sailed all 4 races today, which was a little much, but okay. That got down to the final 2 teams, which have, to use your favorite word, Julia, matriculated, good Stanford word, going forward to the final on Thursday. LRPP and NIAM, New York American Magic, and it should be a barn burner.
It should.
Will Gradoni and his experience in boat handling and boat speed of he and his team win over what could be a better match racing team in Harry Melgus and co. We'll see. We shall see. Okay, so much for the Youth America's Cup. We're almost an hour into the show, 52 minutes into the show, Julia. I want to do a little more cupping here before we go away. An AC37 Cup date for the Cup teams, the senior teams. Here is a really good video from Ineos Britannia, who are going to get the Sailing Illustrated Award for the best media for this 37th edition. Here's another good one talking about the design of their yacht. Have a look.
Ineos Britannia is the Challenge of Record for the 37th America's Cup. The Challenge of Record is the one challenger that negotiates the conditions and the rules under which the America's Cup is held. And that's clearly an advantage. It is not a huge advantage, but it is an advantage.
Having someone as senior as Martin Fisher is in the design space of a team that was involved in developing this class rule has been a key part to making sure that the Formula One designers we have involved in our project get up to speed as quickly as possible.
So I've been very lucky to be involved in America's Cup, Formula One, and then back in America's Cup. A lot of people think, what can possibly be in common between an America's Cup boat and a Formula One car? Well, actually, it's the whole process of the design, it's the technology.
Formula One and high-level sailing are very technical sports, so there's lots of overlap, even though a boat doesn't have wheels and Formula One boat doesn't have sails. But in both areas we deal with complex mechanical systems, hydraulic systems, electronic systems. A Formula One car is aerodynamically extremely complex. They have done in the past a huge amount of research to deal with such a complicated shape. So there's a huge amount of knowledge in the Formula One world that we can use.
So this America's Cup is the second time that we've been running the AC75 class. We're expecting there to be a lot of evolutions from the learnings from the first round, but also there's an opportunity for development. I think as Challenger Record, it gave us the opportunity to discuss the regulation, discuss where it should be, how it should evolve, and what would be beneficial for the class.
Up to this event, racing has only been held in more or less flat water conditions. So in waves, you will be forced to sail a certain amount of the time quite far off your design conditions, and the boat must be able to cope with that. I think with the help from Mercedes, we have been able to put together a very structured process for the design. So I hope that is one of our strong points. Winning the America's Cup with this team, and even more so for me as the chief designer of this team, for me that's the holy grail of yacht design. So after that I can stop.
And of course, Martin Fisher was with Luna Rossa Prata Pirelli last time. He got hired away by the Brits with apparently more scratch. But an interesting comment that in Auckland, the boats sailed in basically flat water conditions. Remember, they had them up underneath that, whatever, I can't remember the islands and so on. But here, they get some lump on certain days, as we've all seen. You get a big easterly breeze or a southeasterly breeze, especially one that goes in overnight and blows against the breakwater and then reflects back off into the sailing area. And it can be not only choppy, but it can be from a different direction than the wind if it's swung around to the southeast or the east, or the south rather. So yeah. Where's Martin Fisher from? I think he's a Brit. I think he went to Southampton University. I'm not sure, Alistair. What's the bad news for Ineos just in, Yarvahe? Yarvahe says bad news for Ineos. Somebody seen that? One thing they ought to learn from F1 is that it is not helpful if one competitor essentially stops falling off the foils because the competition stops. Yeah. Rick Banner is just joining us. He's off the water in MTK. What's that, MTK? Rick Banner, sorry for being tardy. Well, thank you for joining us. And Ed Worley's comment, the process of design and how to evaluate what the data is saying is crucial to following a design path to success. Yeah, and also you've got to again say, Julia, that it is as important as the designers are, the sailors. This is why Coots was good, because he's an engineer. It's why Dennis's engineering sense was so good, because the sailors have to be able to communicate with the designers and vice versa, and convert that into knowledge for on the boat, use on the boat, and what they've gained on the boat, get it back to the designers who can then process it all.
And hopefully they eventually learn each other's language.
Well, if they don't, they're screwed with a capital F. You're absolutely right. Good point, Ed Worley, about that. Well, let's go back down. What happened to Ineos? The Lucas refrigerator conk out fog machine. Montauk. Is there an airport in Montauk with that code MTK? Okay, we got it. Tom Pace. Hello, Commodore Pace. Tom's the Commodore of the Pensacola Yacht Club, where New York American Magic's been training. He says Harry the Fourth will be good in any class he races for a long, long time. Seen him on the Moth, on the Melgus 24s in Pensacola, and on TP52s. He's solid on the helm, and he is one of the nicest guys around. That whole family is nice. His grandma, I love his grandma, and Gloria. A heck of a young sailor from that's Buddy Melgus's widow. Heck of a young sailor from that amazing family, and he's clearly not alone. Future of U.S. sailing is bright. Well, Tom Pace, one can only hope. Falling off the foils is the equivalent of getting a puncture in F1, Rob Fry is saying. Yeah, It's a temporary setback and maybe more. JR promising a GB vehicle, then took it offshore. Jim Ratcliffe promised a GB vehicle, then took it offshore. Okay, I'm not sure what all that's about, Yarvahe. I wonder if dealing with the chop in BCN is better or worse than being canceled in New Zealand due to dolphin frolicking. Well, that was Sail GP. Gordon Smith, we're all wondering, as are you, has something happened to Ineos Britannia? I'm sure if it has, we'll find out in the meantime. Before we leave the America's Cup and start to think about wrapping this show up, I'm going to play one more video, and this is a fluffy piece, but an interesting one that a lot of people ask me about, having gone around with the Cup over the years and taken care of it. And this is how it's currently being handled by the Cup Guardian, who's been assigned to the Cup for some years by the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron and Emirates Team New Zealand. Have a look.
Dating back to 1851, the America's Cup is the oldest sporting trophy in the world. And with the official regatta setting sail next month, the old mug is making its way to Barcelona. Lucy Thompson caught up with the person charged with getting it there safely.
At 173 years old, 1.3 metres tall and 17 kgs of sterling silver, the old mug certainly knows how to attract attention, and it's Norm Newton's job to keep his eyes on the prize.
Well, wherever the cup comes out of the trophy cabinet at the Yacht Squadron, I travel with it. Been doing it for a number of years.
And while he won't say exactly how many, he's got its protection down to a fine art.
What would happen if I went and touched the cup right now?
Is your medical insurance up to date?
As well as minding the mug, Norm's responsible for its maintenance too.
Every time the cup comes out, we send it to a silversmith at the end of its journey, like the tournament, proper silversmith, that they give it a good clean and all that. You know, these gloves are just for the smudges and things like that.
And with the America's Cup match just weeks away, he's preparing it for its journey to Barcelona.
It sits next to me on the plane and all that sort of thing, but never put it in a cargo hold. Most people wouldn't have a clue what's inside the case and all that sort of thing.
Tell me, do you fly business class?
That would be telling, yes.
It's well known across the sailing fraternity that only those who win the cup are afforded the privilege to hold it. And with the old mug about to be put on the line, Team New Zealand are hoping it returns to Kiwi shores and back into the safe hands of its minder.
Should have never left the Kiwi shores.
Yes.
This guy, I've seen this guy in action, and he's great. He's terrific. And we tried to hire guys who were ex-military and were good. They actually came out of a company that does Larry's private protection. And we would send it off to the silversmith to do what we used to call a mani-pedi, get it cleaned. The old lady, grand old lady, as Bruno Trulate called her. But the other nice thing is that the guy has to have the guard has to have a bit of a personality, because he's standing there for hours, sometimes with a colleague to relieve him, sometimes not. And people are asking questions.
Yeah.
And we always spent a lot of time with our Cup Guardians to be sure they knew at least the basics, and they all took great pride in it and learned the history and learned what was going on with the current event.
Right.
And they became our best, in some respects, our best spokespersons for the Cup. And this guy is too. He's terrific.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Grenadier, apparently, Yarvahe is telling us that Ineos Cars, which I know is producing the Grenadier, which is it used to be part of what was the big British Land Rover or something, and they apparently they dropped that mark, as the Brits would say it, and Ineos picked it up and has been planning to manufacture the Grenadier, and you've seen it in a lot of their promotions.
Right.
You see it on their branding, on their sales. So the Grenadier has stopped production due to a supplier problem, Gordon Smith is saying. Okay, so we're aware, Yarvahe, of, at least I am, of Ineos Cars and one of Mr. Leyland, Rick Banner. Okay, thank you. You guys who are car buffs will figure this all out. Question from Larry Gotch is could this be the last iteration of the AC? Where can it go from here? No, this will not be the last iteration. And as the guys walk down at the end of that video with the Cup in its box, the Cup will be around well after Julia and I are gone, well after most of you are gone. It seems to always pick, even when it has its downtime. I mean, remember, World War I was a big downtime. and they shut it down from 21 until 1930 after the war, and then they were afraid people couldn't afford to do things, to challenges, and they had to almost beg the Brits to come in and challenge, and they did. And Mr. Lipton came back for a fifth and final time in 1930 in the J-boats, and then everybody realized the J-boats were too big and too expensive, and then World War II intervened, and the Depression was in full swing and so on, and it came back, and the Americans begged the Brits to come challenge in 58, which they did, in downsized boats in the 12s, and it was, they got waxed, they got beaten so badly in 12s, even though we were thinking, I wasn't around, but the Americans were thinking the 12s were more of a British boat, British yacht, than there weren't that many 12s in the US, lots of them in the UK. And so on and so forth. This thing will continue way past all of us, and it is the brilliance of the deed of gift and those who deeded it to the New York Yacht Club and that trophy. There it is.
Yep.
And that simple, very simple deed that calls for mutual consent. And if there is no mutual consent, here are the baseline rules for which a match will be sailed. And that's only happened twice, 88 and 2010. Both of which I had a hand in winning.
Yes.
And we'll see it again. The couple outlive and outlast, I'm sure.
It does have a life of its own.
And it does have a life of its own. It'll outlast all of us. Hopefully the boats don't get uglier. Okay, so far I promised predictions, and I'm going right back to what I said almost 3 weeks ago. Well, 3 weeks ago today, right? Down at the Arizona Yacht Club. Who's up, who's down in AC-37? This is one of my slides from my slide deck, my keynote down there in Phoenix. And my crystal ball with a little bit of wave, water sound behind it. And my crystal ball from 3 weeks ago, I still stand by. Things haven't changed in my mind, although I am wondering a little bit about breakdowns on LRPP. But as you know, first of all, at the time I made these predictions, I did not know who the Brits would choose as their semifinalist. I predicted they would choose the Swiss. And they did. Mm-hmm. And then I, of course, knew that would leave as we all did, that would leave the Italians and the Americans in the other semifinals. And I predicted 3 weeks ago it was going to be the Brits. Mm-hmm. No surprise, everybody predicted that. And I predicted, sadly, my heart wasn't in this prediction, but I really thought that my brain said the Italians would beat the Americans in that semifinal. And again, I still believe, I'm sorry to all of you who are big Brit fans, a lot of British foesy on here. I think the Italians, unless they're both, and I don't even want to do a caveat. You got to, as I tease all of our Zoomers, who's going to win this race? And Graham Sweeney starts being diplomatic and wants something. Gordon says, oh, my heart this, and my brain says this. I'm just going to say, I think, given everything we know, given the weather conditions, especially if it's lightish, and I'm not, again, no caveats. I just think over the long haul, first to win 7 races or 7 points is going to be the Italians, Luna, Rossa, Prada, Pirelli. Fog Machine is predicting LRPP in 12. I haven't seen Clark Chapin on here, but maybe Mark Holland, if we can and ask you to please keep these predictions. Write down Fog Machine, LRPP in 12, and any other prediction. Yeah, it looks breezier on Thursday. I agree, John Emmett. It could be the Brits win both those races. Remember, this is a replay of the Challenger final down in Auckland. We had the Brits and the Italians in the final, and the Italians handily won that. But the Brits are a much better team than they were in 2021. Aside from you, Jack Keith, a retired FBI agent, was probably the best cup handler. Jack Keith was a good cup handler. We also had a guy who was a couple famously good American military guys. Any other predictions here before we move forward? Too soon to trust long-term forecasts. That is for sure. It never is normally like this. So Emmett's ducking. What a wimp. You crouton, John Emmett. Come on, LRPP and 9, Andrew Barkworth says. I hope you're writing these down, Mark Holland. Julie and I are too busy with our computers here. And I don't see Clark Chapin on. Graham Sweeney, we will be watching a race around the Isle of Wight in the next edition. So Graham is picking the Brits. Is that your heart or your brain, Graham? Because he, of course, is a Brit living in Scotland.
And a big believer.
And a big believer. Has been all along. Richard Lawton, American Magic in straight sets. Are you talking about the youth team? Mark's writing these down. Our, by now, famously good statistician. He has been a huge help, especially on those watch parties. And Mark is up, he's up in north of Boston, almost, we've learned, almost in New Hampshire. He's up in the Merrimack Valley, right? Just south of John Emmett's pragmatic. No, he's not. He's going, you're a wimp, John. Come on, John, go make a prediction. Baton Rouge, LRPP, 12 races to close this out. Wow. Ed Worley, his heart is with Ineos. Okay, so Ed is picking Ineos. That's heart and brain, but I'm stupid. See, this is one of the smartest guys in the sport, Graham Sweeney. Okay, Mark, I ranked as follows: ETNZ, LRPP, Ineos, AM, Alinghi, OE. Well, that was pretty close. That was pretty close. Although Hart says LRPP, but he said that this is not. Let's don't do the finals yet. Tom Pace, who's going to win between the Italians and the Brits?
Yeah, we need to know that first.
$109 bet the Brits win it. Greg Norman up in the Great Lakes here, that good YouTube channel that he runs, Inside Great Lakes Sailing. He's been on the show. He's a Fozy. Just got back, I think, from Barcelona. He's back in the great state of Michigan. J.S. and Francesco Bruni, Jim Spithill and Francesco Bruni will be hard to beat. Stingray says, Alistair Murray, Mr. President, predicting LRPP in 8 races. Oh, Tom Pace thinks it's only in 6 that the Italians will win. John Emmett is going to go with, I knew he was going to go with the Brits.
Well,
they have younger helms. He's picking the Brits, I think. David James, I fear that gear breakdown will be the deciding factor, in which case Ineos wins. Mark, I hope you're getting all this. What do the spread betting sites say? I think they are all betting, last I looked, the British sites were the only ones I saw, and Gordon, sadly for your lot, they were predicting LRPP. Yarva, hey, I've never bet against Ben for something he's always wanted. Well, that's probably a good reason to bet for Ben. And of course, I won't say it, but I've been wrong, unless now we see Ben melt down. You can see Ainsley and Bruni when they raced lasers at the same time. John Emmett, who would have known both of them, raced against them probably. Graham Sweeney, 7-2. Who is that? He's replying to himself. At the end of the day, the fastest boat wins. Okay, John Emmett, we're going to make you the Secretary General of the United Nations. For the diplomat that you are. Great Britain, Ted Ryman says, wins 100%. They're going to win in 7, Ted? Okay. Mark, thank you for trying to get those notes. You can go back and watch them in replay. Again, I think the Italians will win. And I'm not, until we see how the Italians do in this next series, I'm not going to make a prediction. I've always thought that beating the Kiwis was going to be tough, but I'm starting to feel, after watching the Louis Vuitton Cup semifinals, and we'll see what happens in the finals, I'm starting to feel like the hometown favorite in Barcelona, with all of those crazy Italian fans, and probably a lot more showing up if the Italians win the LBC finals.
Yes.
I'm starting to feel like either the Brits or the Italians might have
a chance to beat.
Not a wing up, not a foil arm up, but they might have a leg up.
Yep.
On the Kiwis.
Yep.
Remember, of late, other than the Royal Perth Yacht Club, which was the worst defense in the modern history, they won it in '83 and lost it in their first defense in '87. Since then, a club has won it, taken it home, successfully defended it, and in the case of San Diego Yacht Club, defended it twice, but one of those, you have to put a little asterisk next to '88. It was a strange event, but we did win in '88, and then in '92, and then lost it in '95. And you see Alinghi and the Société Nautique Genève won it in '03, took it home, defended it in '07, and then lost it in 2010. A challenge win, a successful home defense, and then a loss. And I think here, same with Golden Gate Yacht Club. We won it 2010, successfully defended. 2013, lost it in 17 in Bermuda. Kiwis won it in Bermuda in 17, successfully defended in 2021. I think that this could be their this could be their last go.
Yeah.
As the cup holder. So we shall see. Yeah, in 87, Andrew Barkworth was talking about New York Yacht Club's America 2. We defended with the wrong boat. Yeah, the best boat was 42. And our boats got slower, Julia, 42. And then we built 44, and it was slower. And then 46 was even slower than that. Whereas Dennis kept getting faster.
Yeah. I've always just wanted LRPP to win because I think Bertelli.
Patricio on his.
Yeah, this is his 7th attempt.
7th attempt.
Deserves.
Well, and he's 80 years old, too,
Yeah,
80 something.
I want him to win.
Come on, just admit it. You like their livery. You like the silver look of that boat.
I do. I've thought that I've thought from the beginning that they had a really good chance because they look faster.
I won't tell people how many Louis Vuitton scarves and handbags and shoes
that have been sent to me
that you've got upstairs.
None.
You, the fashion queen that you are.
No, I don't have any.
You do. You have LV scarves.
No.
I've given you an LV scarf from one of the previous.
Oh, yeah?
You got an LV scarf.
I didn't know that.
Gordon Smith wants to know if Julia knows any naughty jokes. Yes, she knows plenty of naughty jokes. She's heard them all.
Mm-hmm.
Britain has waited longer than Bertarelli. That's a good point, Graham Sweeney. They've waited since 1870 to try to win back the cup,
yes.
Julia. So maybe the Brits deserve it more than
Graham. I bow to that.
Than Patrizio Bertelli. Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other great comments here? That was a great comment, Graham Sweeney. Thank you. The fastest boat looks the most beautiful, John Emmett says. And Julia, I switched to camera 3 with that graphic still up because I know how much you support in your heart and your brain.
Yeah.
The Italians.
I do. And I would always love to have the Americans do it. But I think the Bertarelli's overdue.
Patrizio Bertelli, not to be confused with Ernesto Bertarelli.
Right, I do that all the time.
Is the Swiss gentleman.
Yeah.
Everybody confuses those two, me included, from time to time. That gets us to, I think, my favorite segment of today's show is this Fozy Focus, the Fozy Focus. We start. Oh, sorry, Julia. You can give me a finger wag.
Unnecessary.
Fozy Foci, because we have more than one. We actually have 3 from the Fozys today. Cool people, friends of Sailing Illustrated, fabulous group of people, starting with, you know who that is? He was a Zoomer one day during the rounds robin, during the semifinals, I guess. No, during the round robin phase. That is Christopher Gillingham.
Oh.
And he and his wife Jane are regulars. They're in Leamington and GBR. Texting back and forth with him a bit this morning. I don't know if he's on right now. Thanks, Tom. Enjoy the Stag Cruise. We sailed aboard their boat Dawn Run over the weekend. I've attached a couple of sunny photographs from Ashlet Creek and the Solent, where they cruised their boat. Fair winds, Christopher and Jane. Gordon Smith knew right away that was Christopher Gillingham.
I'm glad to see his picture. Yeah.
And that is him, and that is their boat.
Wow.
And it just, look at this next photo. Peaceful. This guy is such a peaceful, thoughtful, relaxed guy. I'd love to meet Jane as well. Yeah. Marcos Weinstein just checking in. Hi, Team SI. Yep, Marcos, who was over in Barcelona and is back. So nice photo. Thank you very much, Christopher and Jane Gillingham in Leamington in Great Britain. This next set of Fozy photos is from Sewanaka Corinthian Yacht Club. Julia, this is dedicated to you. Do you recognize these yachts?
6 meters.
Right. Well done. And these were sent by one of our Fozy who was there taking pictures, helping run the regatta, Peter Taylor from New York City last weekend. The 6-meter worlds, pre-worlds actually, at Sewanaka Corinthian Sewanaka Corinthian Yacht Club in Oyster Bay, New York, the North Shore of Long Island, South Shore of Long Island Sound, USA, New York. check these pictures out, Julia, after I read his post. He said, I sent these to Julia knowing how she likes 6 meters. That's the new, well, reasonably new formulation. They say 6 meter rule, X6 MR, and they'll use 12 MR for the 12 meter class. That's something Dyer Jones has been pushing. I send them to you in case you chose or you choose to acknowledge the 6 meter pre-Worlds regatta hosted by Sewanaka this past weekend. Wildcat won the moderns while Salima won the classics. Breeze was mid-teens to low 20s, surprising some of the competitors. It was spectacular, so said Peter Taylor.
And he had a bunch of really good pictures.
Yeah, he did. He sent those to you as well,
Yes,
right? And
yeah.
he sent them to me. We dedicate this to you, Julia, because we know you followed the St. Francis 6 meter circus all over the world.
26 years.
For 26 years you did, and supported them, gave them bucks and 6 meters.
Followed them.
Say again?
Followed them. There was a time when 150 St. Francis members went to Australia
to follow the sixes,
and the next time there were 150 Australians
back here at St. Francis.
Yeah, it was.
Man, that would have been a madness.
Oh, it was wonderful.
6 meters are so elegant looking, Chris Exley says. David James, so 6 meters are sailing 100 years later, 12 meters are sailing 100 years later. That's more than 100. This is a 1906 rule. Jays are sailing 100 years later. I will wager $100 that there will be no AC-75 sailing 100 years from now. Probably won't be sailing next year.
Yeah.
Unless they're back in the cup. Tom Blackaller in 6 meters.
Absolutely.
Look at these fabulous photos here, though, taken by our Fozy Peter Taylor last weekend, Sewanaka Corinthian Yacht Club. And by the way, the 6 meter worlds are next year. Dennis Conner is building a boat to go race in the 6 meter worlds. One hears His Majesty the exiled, or now the King Emeritus of Spain.
Mm-hmm.
He really self-exiled and turned the helm over to his son, Prince, now Crown Prince, then Crown Prince, now King Felipe, who's also a sailor. And we think His Majesty King Juan Carlos will be sailing at Sewanaka, as will Dennis Conner in the 12s. Look at this beautiful shot to conclude this 6 meter segment.
There's
and our Fozy Focus by Peter Taylor. What were you going to say?
There's another one of those, but it looks like they're colliding. It's just a great photo.
Well, finally, we've got one other from a Fozy who was in the Costa Brava in Spain.
Wow.
Do you recognize this class?
Wow.
And one of our Fozy who still competes, even, I think he's older than I am, or certainly up at my age, 70-ish, give or take, from Australia. All of you Australians know him. You know him by his nickname, Dolly. Andrew Dolly Davola sent this in. Last week, the Windsurfer Worlds in Costa Brava, in España. Hey, Tom, this is the marathon start at the Windsurfer Worlds, Costa Brava, Spain. This was a couple days ago. Nearly 300 boards. He finished 8th in the heavyweight division, Dolly Davola. Course racing, 17th overall. A fantastic event with lots of really cool friends from all over the world. Bravo Zulu.
Yeah, that's incredible.
300 boards on that starting line. You can see the starting line off in the upper right corner of that shot. Right. And there's a little motorboat down in the lower left end. And they're all pumping off the starting line. The classic windsurfer was in the Olympics 1984 as a demonstration event. And the Fourth World War will be fought with sticks and stones. John. Okay. You guys back and forth. Look at this great scene.
Yeah.
And really a great beach in Spain, in España. Thank you, Dolly Davola. Thank you for sending us that. Congratulations to you, sir.
Yes, indeed.
On your continuing success in the windsurfer. Yeah, no midline sag. No, Clay Embley, there was no midline sag. There was a big midline bulge in that fleet. Great stuff. Thank you. Thanks again, Andrew Dolly Davola. Quick, this day in history, Julie, you can't skip the 24th of September. It's a famous day. Maybe more important than 1492, this is 1493 on the 24th of September. And it was this gentleman who you will remember, I'm sure. You won't remember, you weren't there.
He and I are great friends.
You were great friends. This is 30 some odd years ago.
It tells you how old I am.
Steve Atkins wondering, did anyone windsurf back in the 70s? I tried. They did. Steve did. Who is that, Julia?
Is it Magellan?
No.
No.
1492, 1493.
Well, if it's... is it Columbus?
Yes.
Oh,
Well done. Christopher Columbus, who, of course, was Cristobal Colon, Italian and Spanish. He moved to Spain to find some money. Well, we could call him Grant Dalton. Ha ha! Ha ha! I made a joke, Julia. Christopher Columbus, 1451 to 1506. Worley knew it. Lunabos knew it. But I thought apropos that big Cristobal Colon statue in the middle of Barcelona that kids and they keep going and having, the sailors keep going and have their pictures taken in front of it, as you would. It's like the Sydney Opera House or like the Golden Gate Bridge or like, Piccadilly Circus in London and so on. Lunabos liked my joke, actually liked my joke. But that's why I thought, it was important to run it today for all those reasons. This is, what are we celebrating though? Are we celebrating Columbus for having done what? Here's your next clue.
Yeah, getting to the West Indies.
Well, but what? Clayton Embley says, my mom dated him. He named one of his boats after her, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Sandra Maria.
Yes.
Was he sailing his vessel to challenge for the cup from his home port? No, I don't think so. This was his second voyage, arguably more famous than his first, although we don't think of it here in North America. I don't think we do, of him discovering the New World on his first voyage. But 1493 to 1496 was arguably even more important because after he did the first voyage, he sailed from Cadiz with 17 ships, not 3, not the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, but 17 ships and supplies to establish permanent colonies in the Americas. He sailed with nearly 1,500 men, including sailors, soldiers, priests, carpenters, stonemasons, metalworkers, farmers, and social media experts. Among the expedition members were Alvarez Chanca, a physician who wrote a detailed account of the second voyage, Juan Ponce de Leon, the first governor of Puerto Rico and Florida, and the father of Bartolome de las Casas, Juan de la Casa, a cartographer who is credited with making the first world map depicting the New World, and Columbus's youngest brother, Diego. The fleet stopped at the Canary Islands to take on more supplies and set sail again on the 7th October, deliberately taking a more southerly course than on the first voyage, as you would, because I go back and look at that, and that's why they ended up, I guess, from Spain. You see that over there on the right? They ended up in Dominica, Nica. Remember that song? Yes. Just up above. They didn't quite get to Martinique and Aruba and so on. And then went up Guadalupe, Nevis, St. Croix, the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and around Hispaniola and Cuba. And then finally took off back to Spain after X many years. It's 3 years, right? Quite a deal. Okay, so we've gone through that. That is this day in history. In 1493, why am I showing that to you on the monitor? Let's go to the slide. 1493, Christopher Columbus embarks on his second expedition to the New World, setting sail with a fleet of fully 17 ships. Right?
Yes.
531 years ago, today. Hard to believe. Any other comments? Peter McDonald. We talked about you, Peter, earlier in the show.
We did.
Looking forward to seeing you up at the Stag Cruise. But China discovered America in 1421, decided they didn't like it, and went home. John Emmett is, of course, married to the Chinese super sailor Lily. Did he get eaten by the locals? Explorers seem rather unlucky in that regard. Well, no, that was Captain Cook. Okay, Julia, that gets us the last leg, and we got to get off the Cup and get off Columbus and get off Barcelona and get to something that is more relatable, if that's a word, to what we all do in our beloved sport. And this is the last leg in Porto Cervo. We showed an earlier video from the Rolex Swan Cup, and here is the concluding video from Sunday from that fabulous event at the equally fabulous Yacht Club Costa Smeralda.
Sublime elegance, superlative design, renowned partnerships, the distinctive hallmarks of the Rolex Swan Cup. Today in Porto Cervo, the 22nd edition of this world-class regatta drew to a close after a week of exemplary competition that brought together more than 100 magnificent Swan yachts in a spectacular display of racing provided by partners Rolex, Yacht Club Costa Smeralda and Nautor Swan.
I think this week at the Rolex Swan Cup has been absolutely fantastic. The scenery is just magical. It's very competitive, all the different classes, we're really fighting it out, which is such a lovely camaraderie. We really, really enjoy it. It's been such a super week.
The variety and scope of yachts taking part was remarkable, as were the performances across all classes on the renowned waters of the Maddalena Archipelago. The sizable Division C, contested by Grand Prix and cruiser yachts, went to Katima. The Sparkman and Stevens Division, a showcase for historic Swan yachts, was won in some style by Isabella. And in the One Design Division, Club Swan 42 Canopo prevailed in a highly competitive fleet that included the newly launched Club Swan 28s and the burgeoning Club Swan 50s. And the final standout performance of the week came from the Italian Mini-Maxi Sequel, winning Division A with an impeccable 4 wins from 4 races.
For us, winning the Rolex Swan Cup is just a dream. After 2 years waiting for this race, now we achieve it, and simply happiness.
A fitting end to a memorable Rolex Swan Cup.
Fabulous, fabulous conclusion to that event. And as a lot of you are saying, Peter McDonald, now that's
all right. Yacht race.
Yacht race. You saw his comment
Right.
there. That
That's
gets
good.
us to the D block. Whiskey, Tango, Foxtrot, Julia, your favorite segment.
Oh, yes. I'm listening.
I actually, these are kind of cool today because these are videos, not our silly cartoons. And you could have a caption contest for both of these if you wanted. One is really funny and one is just plain sad. Let's have a look. 60 knots of wind. Well, you got to admit they did dock.
They did.
The med tide, they got the back end of the boat up against the breakwater. There was somebody there. I don't know how the back end of the boat was after that. You want to see that again? Huh?
Okay.
Ouch! That's as good That's a capture planet. I'll just buff out and play Embly's saying, yeah, probably will. Hopefully it will. This one, if you are a snowflake, if you're a sensitive sort, you want to turn your eyes or leave the room because this is very sad. This is from it's the the Beauty of Sail, the Facebook group, Beauty of Sail. Have a look at this tragedy that was from Beauty of Sail from the Facebook group. I beg your pardon. This is from Afosi and from Steve Atkins. I put it on my Facebook page. It's had thousands of views on my Facebook page.
Yes.
And Commodore Steve Atkins, past Commodore of the Madison Beach Club, writes, this is Dorian, a Pearson yawl that was racing yesterday in the Cross Sound Challenge held by Essex Corinthian Yacht Club. This was over the weekend, I think Saturday, Connecticut, here in the USA. All are safe. They were unable to locate the leak and the pumps couldn't keep up. The yawl sank in 140 feet of water, according to the owner, from Posey, Steve Atkins. You know, that's not just an open sea cock. They must have, I think the keel must have parted from the bottom of the hull. I can't imagine a boat filling up by the bow that fast. Unless they hit something and they did the Titanic and hit something forward and a lot of water poured in. And
Over the 140 feet of water, though.
well, but something could have been floating. They could have hit who knows what. Great family. Steve Atkins is on here. He's saying great family owner took down his past Commodore flag from the mizzen halyard and stepped off the stern.
Oh, this really is sad.
We saw that video earlier
Yeah.
of the of One Australia going down in '95 off San Diego. That was in that stuff.co.nz.
Yeah.
But Steve Atkins says, yeah, they might have hit something. It had to have been forward, Steve. That's just, and they couldn't figure it out. Apparently, they didn't have time to try to figure out what happened. The pumps couldn't keep up with it. But and a great classic yacht, too. Couldn't have been the keel. The boat would have flopped. Well, Alan, sometimes they just open up, you know, in the front, and that partially tears off the bottom of the boat. That sure didn't take long, did it, David Campbell? So
No,
sad. I don't want to play that again, but
No.
sad. And thank you, Steve Atkins, for sending that. And, you know, as the Germans say, Scheiße happens. And luckily, nobody was hurt. And, okay, Steve, thank you for sending that. Someone rotted the toilet out. I doubt that, Gordon Smith. Who knows? Who knows? Okay, we're to the finish line, Julie, and it is your witness.
Yes. Please like, follow, and especially share, because people are going to miss good parts of the America's Cup if they don't learn about us.
Truly sad indeed, that sinking video we just watched. Comments are welcome, even in replay. We leave them open, as I always say here on this slide, because our people, our FOSI, our friends are so fantastic. They don't ever, or rarely, Julia, do they ever leave crotonic comments.
No.
And we appreciate that very much. We also appreciate very much those of you who support us via Patreon or otherwise, sending us a bottle of, not that I drink anymore, a bottle of booze or a check in the mail, or join via patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. And no, Jody has not managed to use that word yet. So I don't know what your drinking word is, all of you who are texting back and forth privately. Steve Atkins just saying that's a well-maintained boat, and they checked out all the obvious places before it did sink. So I rather suspect something, maybe the keel, part of the hull in the front or something. Alistair Murray, Mr. President of Australian Sailing, is going to do some racing this afternoon. It's, Wednesday morning down there now. And we will see you all Thursday. John's going to do a CCC. He'll post to the website on Friday. Thank you for that, John. And Chris actually is saying the number, this is a great observation. The number and quality of comments seem to be rising here. Great, this community has the psychological safety to chime in. Thank you, Don Lunabos. Thanks to all of you, especially our FOSI. Thanks to everybody who gave us audio, video, and images for today's show. Julia, final thought.
Aren't we all lucky to have this community?
We are, and the great community, and it's fun to see them meeting each other around the world.
Yes.
And maybe they've met online, and then they finally get together,
Yes.
and because they're in the same neck of the woods, and they look each other up. And what a fabulous group you all are. We deeply appreciate it.
Indeed.
And that's it for us. We hope, just to remind you, hope to see you Thursday morning, as John, Emmett, and others were saying. We will do a watch party Thursday morning for the Louis Vuitton Cup, the start of that First to Win 7 series and the Youth America's Cup Finals, their one and only race, sandwiched in between the other two, starting at 0500 Pacific, which of course is noon UTC. Then on Friday through Sunday, we will have no shows, no regular Friday show, no watch parties because of my having to be away up at Tinsley Island this weekend. Monday the 30th, however, we will do a watch party, assuming and it will be, they won't get to 7 races by Monday morning. That's a scheduled reserve day, but if for some reason that's a race day, we'll do a watch party. I'll be back here in the saddle in Studio B. Likewise, Tuesday, the 1st of October, we think that will be a watch party day, and maybe beyond, depending upon whether this series is close or not. Julia, what are you laughing about?
Graham Sweeney says, I thought that the drinking word was stag cruise.
I hope so. Stag cruise. You all can have lots to drink. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you have a great rest of the day wherever in the world you are. Hope to see you Thursday morning at 0500 Pacific. Ciao for now.